With Mike Brown as the new coach of the New York Knicks, everyone's focused on the offense and how Cat and Brunson, and even Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, are all going to get their offensive inputs and impacts maximized. But no one's talking about the sneaky, smart move the Knicks made by hiring Brennan O'Connor and what changes that might be made to the New York Knicks defense that might take them over the top. Hit that rock. Before we get started, make sure to hit the like, subscribe to the channel. Make sure to hit the dark notification bell to get each and every notification for each and every video I put out. There's your boy Gmo Legion Knicks. Let's get it. So with Mike Brown joining as a new coach of the New York Knicks, all the hoopla and all the freaking hype has been around how Mike Brown is going to finally change the offense and get Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns to get back to that two-man tandem, how he's going to maximize the wings on his team. Blasey, blasey, blasey. Look. It's no secret that Tom Thibodeau wasn't the most offensively gifted coach out there. But let's be honest, when you look at the scoring by the Knicks, it improved, at least going from 2023 to 2025, going from 19th in points per game to 9th in the league. And in the playoffs, the Knicks showed that scoring wasn't necessarily the issue. 2 years ago, the Knicks ranked 3rd in scoring. Last year, the Knicks ranked 4th in scoring in the playoffs. And so were the Knicks the most stylistically pleasing team? No. But to sit up here and act as if the Knicks didn't have weapons, at least in the starting lineup, yes, we're very top heavy, but we're still able to put up some elite scoring stats against the league's best in the playoffs. The scoring wasn't necessarily the thing that got us over the hump in our series wins versus the Detroit Pistons as well as the Boston Celtics. It was the defense. Go back. Stifling Cade Cunningham in the first round of the playoffs versus Detroit, making the Celtics look absolutely stupid when we stopped playing drop back defense. So when people talk about what's going to take the Knicks over the hump, to me, it is the defense. And the Knicks made a key acquisition in hiring Brennan O'Connor to be the so-called defensive coordinator for the Knicks going into the season. Now, when you look at Brennan O'Connor's career in the NBA, it's just absolutely vast. He's been all over the place. This is a guy who has been with the Clippers for 12 years, was back with the Clippers when they had Doc Rivers. This is a guy who's coached or been assistant coach with the Kings, the Knicks, the Hornets, as well as the Nets. He's one executive according to Ian Begley as being the Knicks' best acquisition this year. He's a heck of a coach. The Knicks got a steal, blasey, blasey, blasey. I mean, everybody, or not everybody, but enough people are singing this guy's praise. His mentor is Eric Musselman, who also has ties to Tom Thibodeau. This guy is also coached under Mike Woodson when Mike Woodson was here with the Knicks. This is another guy who's had his connections to JVG spanning or going back to his time with the Clippers last year when JVG was brought on to bolster the defense, and we're going to get to that in a little bit. O'Connor has he's going to be able to cobble up what he's got learned around the league, talking about the things that he's learned with JVG, who helped get that Clippers defense to being the 3rd best defensive rating in the league behind the Orlando Magic and the OKC Thunder. How to utilize point of attack defenders in Kris Dunn. How to get the most out of so-called Asian wings, guys like Nicholas Batum. How to get even guys like James Harden to get back onto assignments and play the passing lanes. There's so many things to cover with this guy and Brennan O'Connor, what he may bring to the Knicks and how the Knicks defense may transform and get back to that elite level. Let's get to the point as to where I think Brennan O'Connor is going to be able to improve or bring some changes. Just keep in mind that Brennan O'Connor, the Clippers, JVG, some of the things that they instilled last year in terms of just the mindset and philosophy on defense for the Clippers was to be fearless, to be aggressive, don't be afraid to make mistakes, don't play defense on the back heel, protect the corner 3, and accountability on defense. Now, let's start off with point of attack defense. When you look at the Clippers last year, their main point of attack defender was who? Kris Dunn. This is a guy that's been a solid defensive guard wherever he's been. He's ranked in the 95th percentile according to B-Ball Index regarding perimeter isolation defense, at least for the last 2 years, ranking above the 95th percentile. And so I look at him and I say, okay, who can replicate this on the Knicks? Now, granted, they had another really good point of attack defender in Derrick Jones Jr. Both those guys ranked in the 95th percentile or above it last year in perimeter isolation defense. And I look at the Knicks. Obviously, the guy that we have who kind of replicates that is Mikal Bridges. He also ranked above the 95th percentile in terms of perimeter isolation defense. Another guy that we have is OG Anunoby. He did the same thing as well, too, ranking above the 95th percentile. And for additional context, when we look at the Clippers as a whole, they went from being 7th in the league in steals in 2023-24 to being 3rd in the league in 2024-25. There's another player who I think can definitely shoot up in terms of those rankings. Now, the player I had in mind that could be a key point of attack defender for the Knicks next season is my guy, Miles McBride, who struggled this past season with a groin injury that set him back. But years prior, at least in 2023-24, he actually ranked around above the 70th percentile in terms of perimeter isolation defense. And when you see how he plays and compared to Kris Dunn, granted, Kris Dunn is a superior defender compared to Miles McBride, there are a lot of comparisons you can make between the two. Kris Dunn is 6'3" with a 6'9" wingspan. Miles McBride is 6'1" with a 6'9" wingspan. So I wanted to show a few plays just to give you a glimpse as to what I'm thinking Miles McBride can do. A few of them come from this past season. From Kris Dunn here, he's guarding up Kevin Durant. Granted, Kevin Durant's Kevin Durant. Superior scorer, but one thing that can definitely be a major plus for a player like Miles McBride is that these taller, lankier wing scorers, it's really annoying when they have to try to put the ball down, given the fact that you're lower than them, lower center of gravity, and you could stay on them like a sieve. Now, Miles McBride, when he's healthy, this guy's a former football player, he's strong. He can fight through screens. He can play 1v1. He can move really well laterally. And what Kris Dunn does so well here is that he allows Kevin Durant to put the ball on the ground. Now, Kevin Durant has to do a great job or a big job of trying to protect the ball. But pay attention to what Kris Dunn does here. And here's another example with Kris Dunn defending Steph Curry. Obviously, Steph Curry, one of the best scorer shooters in the league. And Steph Curry, back in the day, used to be ridiculous with the dribbles. He still has handles, but back in the day when he was, under Mark Jackson, Steph Curry's handles were ridiculous. But in this case, man, Kris Dunn does a great job of forcing Curry one way, forcing Curry to his left. Granted, Zubac is kind of there sitting back in the paint, waiting for him. But just look at Kris Dunn. Allows him to drive past him because, Steph Curry does a really good job of creating contact that then, the refs look at it and he, gets the foul, drills a foul somehow. But Kris Dunn, again, does a great job of just moving with him, staying right on the hip. And Steph Curry thinks Steph Curry's actually really stuck right here. Maybe he's thinking to probably drive and maybe get a foot on Kris Dunn and try to drive it and get a foul. Maybe drive a little bit more towards his right, bring it back towards his right because Draymond's just in a weird position right now. But Kris Dunn just does a great job of guiding him into that trap where Zubac is. And then right where he wants it, goes for the steal. Look at the timing by Kris Dunn to get that steal. That's not the easiest of things, but there's a method to his madness. Waiting for that opportune time for the ball handler to put the ball right where he thinks that there's no way for you to try to hezzy or cross over. You're going in one path linear, go straight for the steal. And I'm going to show you an example where Miles McBride did the same thing about 2 seasons ago. So here's an example, Miles McBride kind of replicating what we saw with Kris Dunn those past few clips. Granted, he's playing against the Detroit Pistons about 2 seasons ago. This is when they had Corey Joseph on the team. And granted, Corey Joseph is not Kevin Durant, obviously. Corey Joseph is not Steph Curry, not even by stretch of imagination. But I just want to show an example here where, again, Miles McBride point of attack defense, just sticking onto Corey Joseph. And you see here, as IQ comes to help out Emmanuel quickly, who's a good defender in his own right, good help defender as well, too. You see in Miles McBride just basically stay on the hip of Corey Joseph, and just look at where he times that steal perfectly when he tries to put it ahead. Just a stupid dribble. Now, granted, the dribble's not as tight as the last few examples I just showed, but the idea and the thinking, nevertheless, remains the same. Timing when to make those steals, right? Guiding a player one place, making sure they drive one place, playing that physical defense on them. So there's no real hesitation. There's no real thinking as to the trees of possibilities as to where the dribbler can go. Now, granted, last season, Miles McBride was hurt with the groin injury, but you saw many times, even when he was healthy under Tom Thibodeau, sometimes he kind of played like a soft man defense, kind of forced him. He did a little ice pick and roll at times, trying to ice in the screen at times. But I guess with the injury, you kind of see Mcbride kind of play a little bit lame, and point attack was a tad bit slower. Do expect them to get back to this tight 1v1 defense, be able to glide, be able to move laterally with the ball handler, and be able to display the solid hands that we've seen in years prior. Now, the next person I want to show you is another point of attack defender, and my son Mikal Bridges, because him and OG Anunoby, even though I said they kind of replicate what Kris Dunn, I just meant in terms of the role of a point of attack defender, but they are different types in terms of their physical profiles, types of defenders compared to Kris Dunn. Now, the guy that I actually want to show in terms of examples is none other than Derrick Jones Jr. So, in looking at Derrick Jones Jr.'s game, I mean, this guy had a really good defensive season for the Clippers last year. In the examples I'm showing, he's defending SGA, obviously MVP, champion, all that jazz. But for the season, your man Derrick Jones held to a 32% field goal percentage. And this game I'm showing, he held him to 7 for 29. I believe that OKC still won. Like, it was a really close game, I believe. But Derrick Jones Jr., the thing that you see when he defends is that he uses his physicality a little bit better than Mikal. Now, when you look at him and Mikal, you think, oh, maybe Derrick Jones is a little bit more short. They're literally the same profile. Derrick Jones is like 209, 6'6", with a 7-foot wingspan. Mikal Bridges is 6'6", with a 7'1" wingspan, around 210 pounds. They're literally the same profile. So when people say, oh, one guy's weak, one guy's... Not granted, obviously, you know, bone density and stuff. I'm not analyzing all that. I'm just saying that their physical profiles are very similar. And the things I see with Derrick Jones Jr. in his defense is like, I like how he uses his physicality to disrupt the ball handler trying to get to their spots. And then uses his height, uses the length in his arms advantageously. Now, granted, there are times he uses it for steals, but he's not always trying to necessarily go for a block. He's just trying to make you very uncomfortable once you go up. Even if you get to your spots, trying to make you very uncomfortable taking that preferred jump shot, or preferred at the preferred spot. Look at here, Derrick Jones just guarding that beautifully. I think he actually even gets a deflection on SGA, which is not easy. SGA, a mid-range maestro, obviously getting to that foul line is what he wants to do. Pushes off, no foul. Derrick Jones Jr. does a great job of using the length after the bump. Kind of like a football when you say bump and recover. But just, again, does a great job of absorbing the contact and getting back. Many times last year, Mikal Bridges gets pushed off and he's flying, right? So he has to be able to trust his body a little bit more, trust his balance a little bit more to feel that he can recover on those type of shots. I'm going to show you another example. Staying on point of attack defense, we have to go to the Achilles heel of the Knicks defense last year, which was the screen defense. Now, we used to be one of the best at guarding the screens, but because our starting center is addicted to playing drop back, we have to acquiesce to the fact that we're just going to have to be able to play defense around that. And the Clippers may have found the formula that Brennan O'Connor could bring to the Knicks next season. Now, the New York Knicks last year ranked in the 31st percentile, excuse me, in the 37th percentile, 38th percentile regarding pick and roll defense against the ball handler. Last year, the Clippers were ranked in the 96th percentile, 96.6%. Now, the year before that, the Clippers were pretty terrible. They ranked around the 55th percentile, while the Knicks ranked in the 31st percentile 2 seasons ago. Whenever there's a screener, especially in the middle of the paint. Now, granted, many times Zubac plays a drop back, so they have to account for that. But what they do is that they use that other wing from the weak side that's now getting closer to the ball as the ball handler gets over the screener, drives around that screen area is the top of the key. They use the other wing defender, weak side wing defender, to come and help out and play a lot more aggressively. One of the reasons why, again, the Clippers ranked so high in steals. One of the reasons why their defense was so disruptive, even with Zubac playing drop back. Now, this bodes very well for the Knicks because many times teams have picked on Mikal Bridges purposely while having whoever OG Anunoby's assignment was to be out in the corner, someplace where OG couldn't have a direct impact, right? And so many times now, the Knicks played tag defense, but nowhere near as aggressive as the Clippers. And many times, whether it's the minutes, the usage, guys are tired, the tag defense seemed to disintegrate over the past few years, especially as games went on. The Clippers from the jump are extremely aggressive in using that wing to come and help out. Sometimes even shoot the gap. So before we get to examples, I just want to bring out one point, which is an important core tenet of the Clippers defense, which is to not give up the corner three shot. Now, how the screen defense works in their system with the wing helping out, the wing defender helping out, that wing three is going to be open many times. You know, they will hope for the corner guy to kind of shade over and kind of play and tag and maybe help out on that wing three-point shooter. But that corner three-point shooter cannot be allowed to be open. So to round out the top corner three defending teams in terms of not allowing the least amount of shots from the corner three, you got Boston, Chicago, Orlando, Phoenix, Houston, Memphis, Minnesota, Charlotte, LA Clippers, and Utah Jazz, and then the Knicks actually at number 11. When you look at the teams that are best at not allowing the most amount of non-corner threes, you have Dallas, you have Orlando, you have Portland, you have Cleveland, you have Brooklyn, you have Houston, you have Indiana, you have New York, you have Denver, you have Atlanta. And I'm pretty sure if you take the defensive ratings of the teams that are best at defending the corner threes versus the defensive ratings of the teams that are best at the non-corner threes, or at least allowing the least amount of corner versus non-corner threes, you probably get a better defensive rating from the corner three list. And so there is some science behind it. Again, the corner three is the easiest shot on the court. But let's get to how exactly the screen defense differs with the Clippers. So let's start off here on this play. Here's a beautiful example of how the Clippers use a lot of help from the weak side wing to essentially neutralize some of the weakness you get from the drop back big when defending pick and rolls. Now here you're seeing Jalen Green use a screen to try to get away from Derrick Jones Jr. To pay attention to your man Kris Dunn, just how much space he closes out. He has Reed Shep on him, who come coming from college, he's was a good three-point shooter. He's going to be a good three-point shooter in the league, I believe. Obviously he's going to play, but still a threat nonetheless. And look at Kris Dunn just helping out, stops Jalen Green's drive, gives a crazy beautiful tag here, and then gets back to his man. Again, Zubac is in drop back, but it gives enough time for Derrick Jones to recover. Jalen Green not going anywhere. And again, Jalen Green better of a slasher, not really the best of threats in terms of shooting off the dribble from the three-point shot. Very inconsistent, but still somebody you have to account for. And Jalen Green getting another screen. It's crazy. He has to get a screen. He's getting another screen to his left. But unless you see Kris Dunn helping out again, Zubac still in drop back and tries to set the re-screen. Derrick Jones does a good job. And at this point, obviously, Zubac is still playing drop back, but he's playing high enough now, and he's taking they basically neutralize the screen so much they kind of can predict what Jalen Green's going to do. He's either going to try to drive to the basket or try to make a shot at that pinch, right? So Jalen Green comes off the screen, Zubac in a perfect position, can't really look at Kris Dunn still helping out, giving away that wing three to Tari Eason if he can make that pass. You got your man reach up in the corner, Kawhi Leonard still playing, still helping out. The helper is very similar to Tom Thibodeau's help the helper in terms of the tag defense. So you have almost have two taggers helping out. It's a little bit more aggressive than the Knicks. And right here, but it gives enough time for Derrick Jones to recover. Zubac is there, not a great position. Your man Jalen Green is stuck. And another thing the Clippers love to do is they love playing these passing lanes where you see Kris Dunn at. So if your man Jalen Green even dares to try to make that pass to a guy like Tari Eason, your man Kris Dunn easily has a beautiful track to make that pass and intercept it. So the Clippers defense is absolutely beautiful. Jalen Green is stuck in no man's land. Derrick Jones Jr. easily defends that. Jalen Green with a terrible shot as the shot clock was winding down. Around 10, he still had some time, but Jalen Green, just very inconsistent kind of freelance shooter scorer. Inconsistent is one of the reasons why he got traded to the Suns. Beautiful defense by Derrick Jones Jr., but just goes to show you how much the tag and how early the tag is in the Clippers defense that helps kind of neutralize that drop back defense by the big, something that the Knicks would definitely deploy next year with Karl-Anthony Towns. Here's another really good example of how the Clippers play their screen defense that I think the Knicks can take a lot from. Now, granted, we did some of these concepts under Tom Thibodeau in terms of protecting the paint, forcing the team to take contested twos, take contested shots even at the rim. But when I watch this, it reminds me somewhat of like the pack line defense that Bennett used to deploy or used to have in Virginia. So here's my bonus one. I just want to show how the protecting the corner three-point shot, one of the core tenets of the Clippers defense, shines even through their weakest defenders. Here in James Harden, right? So we're going to see here the Clippers versus the Golden State Warriors. I believe that Curry was out this game, right? So you don't have as much pressure from the outside, but you still have guys like Buddy Hield who could kill you from the outside. And here you have Derrick Jones Jr. being screened off. Again, Kris Dunn with the aggressive tag. And here's more at the wing, right? So the top of the key could be dangerous. Obviously, it's not the corner, but again, protect the corner three. Just remember that. Kick it out to Kyle Anderson, Mr. Slow-Mo. Still a really good player. And then Kris Dunn kind of recovers. But James Harden, at least holding cover to at least say, hey, my man is going over. He's curling someplace. And I got the best three-point shooter on the floor right now with the Warriors. But let me at least help out a little bit to stop Kyle from at least driving to the basket. So you almost get, it's like tag to the tag, right? You used to have helper. It's almost tag to the tag, right? It's this connective tag in the Clippers defense. But Harden does a really good job of holding his ground to at least allow Kris Dunn to recover. Pay attention to Buddy Hield. Kyle Anderson, Mr. Slowpoke, who, again, this guy, we know he lives to the very last step of his steps, or the very last movement of his steps, right? So you can't just shade away and move away from him. He operates on freaking slow-mo time. But here Kyle Anderson finds Buddy Hield. Look at where James Harden is. The guy who was just helping out. I just had to rewind it. The guy who was just helping out because Kris Dunn was a little late to recover off the initial tag defense, the aggressive tag defense. A little bit late to recover. James Harden. Remember, another core 10 of the Clippers is accountability. Accountability, responsibility on your guy. You got to be accountable for your guy on the floor, no matter the tag to help. So you got to help out. You also still got to make sure your guy is well guarded. Again, it's just such a connective defense. Look at Buddy Hield. Now, Buddy Hield, he loads up a little bit in terms of shots, but look at James Harden with the hustle. No corner three-point shots. You don't see James Harden make those type of plays normally in a stall in LA. And I think that Brennan O'Connor, he has the bodies here in New York to do the same thing. OJ Anunoby, Miles McBride, Mikal Bridges. Shoot, guys like Jalen Brunson, who are not the greatest of defenders. We just talk about their physical profile. We see Jalen Brunson play excellently on the passing lanes. So there's no excuse for him in this so-called connective defense to not be able to play his role and make a play like that on Harden. Maybe not to block, but to recover back on a Buddy Hield, right? To show the tag, to help out, to allow the initial tagger to get back to his man and then run out to the corner to protect the three. Or even just provide an aggressive tag and possibly give up the wing three-point shot and dare them to take that shot or dare them to drive into the middle where they should see a standing Karl-Anthony Towns, a standing Mitchell Robinson. So there are a lot of things within this screen defense that this team that's become one of the best in terms of defending the screen after such a poor year the year before, so many things that Knicks could take given the fact that we struggled with these screens for years. So another aspect I wanted to touch upon is the switchability in the Clippers defense. Now, this is something the Knicks have actually kind of struggled with the past few years. Granted, you saw Tom Thibodeau trust his squad to switch a little bit more last year, and where it finally freaking clicked was against the Boston Celtics in the playoffs when, of all people, Karl-Anthony Towns finally stopped being a puss and trusting his freaking feet to switch on to a Tatum, switch on to a Jaylen Brown, and play up. Now, we went right away from that against the Pacers, which made no effing sense. But with the Clippers defense, and what I'm expecting Brennan O'Connor to bring to the squad, is not just switchability, but aggressiveness off that switchability. The one thing when you watch the Clippers defense is that they're uber aggressive when switching. They do not allow the ball handlers to breathe. One of the core tenets that JVG brought over, do not play on your back foot. Control the possession, what they want to do. Now, granted, you're going to be playing against some of the best players in the league. They're going to find their spots regardless. But what you see in the Clippers defense is that they do not allow, something that Knicks allowed last year, especially in the regular season, They don't allow ball handlers, especially coming off of screens, to get into a flow off that screen. Aggressive. And it makes that ball handler have to think really quick. Or now you might be stuck. Now you might be getting into a turnover on your own man who's screening because you just see a Batum who's 50 billion years old. You see a Kawhi Leonard. You see a Kris Dunn. Just shoot that gap off the screen. And now it's not just switch, but also contest and try to go for the steal and create a turnover. Last example I want to show with the switchability is, look, at the end of the day. So those are my thoughts on what I think can evolve in this defense or change in this defense and for the better, take us to a championship. How do you guys feel about this defensive, maybe the defensive change that will be coming to the Knicks? Now I say maybe the defensive change that will be coming to the Knicks, or well, at least I suspect will be coming to the Knicks. What do you think? Let me know your thoughts. Your boy Gmo Legion Knicks. I appreciate you. Peace, Lou. God bless. I'll catch you guys on the next one.